Gentlemen, the numbers are clear. Fewer young hearts in the pews.
We need a bridge they can walk across.
Something that speaks their language.
Then let's speak it with rhythm.
Romans chapter 6, teaching Baptists what baptism is, how it's depicted in the script, not symbol.
Me mum died in the holly.
Yes, high five, fiddly-fee, me mum died in the holly. And now I guess it's funny to an awful lot of folk to hear me mum's a lampshade and me dad's a bar of soap.
That was a lot of work. Next time we're buying Fat Thins.
You guys don't want to know what I did to that cow. I'm just, listen to me. There's a few things I got to say there.
Welcome back, everyone.
First off, it's been a long time, man. 2 weeks away. A few things. Majari made the intro. I saw that video like a week ago or so, and I didn't even realize that was Majarian in there.
Oh, in the Fat Thin one?
Yeah. But second off, that's Fat Thin's last free promo because they've
I was
now
gonna
sent
say,
me.
yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
That was a taste for that.
Yeah,
right?
they've now sent me two
so.
packages of free chips. But you guys, listen, that's it. No more free promos. That's it. No more. I'm tired of throwing these. They say they want to advertise with us. They send us some free stuff. They get the freebie out of us. Now it's time you guys got to pay. That's it. No more free Fat Thins promos. The other thing, well, first off, Matt Gaspers is joining us again. So we were supposed to have Matt on, like, I think 2 weeks ago to do like a 2025 year in review. Like we've done that for the past like 3 years with you, right?
I didn't make it last year, but yeah, the past couple before that, I think.
Yeah, we would always do
we were going to do it early last week. And then decided not to, and then we were going to do it late last week, and then you didn't know if you were going to be sober, so then we decided to do it today.
Well, so Matt was supposed to come on last week for the 2025 year in review, and then I was like, do we do a 2025 year in review? And I feel like we kind of like missed the boat on that. Like everybody kind of did their years in review already, so and we're hoping we might get to the title subject tonight, but like, we haven't done a show in 2 weeks. There's a lot to catch up on. I had over the past weekend, over New Year's weekend, my friend Bobby, who came on pilgrimage with me last year, who's now like been on like 5 different family vacations with me. He came up to visit for the weekend. Then one of our listeners, Jim Pine, was on Long Island for a wedding on New Year's Day. So New Year's Day. So then like the day after New Year's Day, the three of us went into the city, and I took them into Manhattan, and we went to we basically went to Holy Innocents, St. Pat's, St. Vincent Ferrer, the Met. Then we did a little bit of Central Park, and then we went to like Ground Zero. So we did like a whole tour of the city. While we were at St. Vincent Ferrer, there was a private Latin mass going on in one of the side chapels that we were able to sit in on, and it was a really, really fun day in the city. But while Bobby was here, Anthony, how many friends named Bobby do you have?
Actually, just one. Bobby's just in a lot of stories.
But while he was here, all right. So to back up a little bit. So on the last episode, sorry, Matt, we will get to you, but I have to.
No, that's fine.
To say so.
It's his opening monologue.
We will talk to Matt Gaspers, I promise.
But we got to get through the 40 Abadi family stories first.
So listen, so the last episode we did, like I kind of I mentioned the pilgrimage that we're doing, right? And at the end of the show, we go on to locals, and I still hadn't had a priest lined up, and I was considering asking my priest at my parish. I was like, all right, I was going to go to Mass on New Year's Day for the obligation. I was gonna just basically bum rush my parish priest after Mass, but on the switch over to locals on that episode, I kind of threw out there that we didn't have a priest. I was like, hey, if there's a priest watching the show and he says both forms of the Mass, like reach out. So a priest reached out to Rob, sent Rob an email, and basically said, hey, he basically reached out saying he offers both forms and just to reach out if we're interested. So I call him, and he's like, first of all, I'm not going to announce who the priest is because our show is too controversial, and I don't need somebody like Deacon Jim hounding his bishop and asking him why he's coming. But I'll say this much about him. His name's Anthony.
Thought about that guy for a long time.
Oh man,
I'm not going to dox him, but here's his name and address.
His name's Anthony, right? I get him on the phone, and he's like, "Yeah, I got a brother Gino, I got a brother Sal." I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be amazing. This is great." So basically, he saw my YouTube post that just said what we were doing, and then there was a young guy at his parish who's like 25 years old or something, who watches the show and just came into the church 3 years ago. And father like baptized him and brought him into the church. And the guy watches our show, and he said to the priest, he goes, "Hey, these guys, are you going to be the chaplain on their pilgrimage?" So that's why he reached out. He's like, I was considering it at first, but I thought it might be a little too forward. And then he said that to me, I kind of took it as a sign from God. So I had like a FaceTime call with him the other day, and he's like, I was like, "Oh, have you ever been to Italy?" He goes, "Yeah, I went to Italy when I was 17 on my senior trip." He goes, when I was 17, I go on my senior trip like a week before we were
Is Ant's audio miserable for everyone else?
It is breaking up a little bit on my end.
Yeah, it's bad.
Is it really? Oh, that's not good.
I can't tell.
Now it sounds better.
It seems better now.
Am I just talking too loud into the mic?
No, it sounded quieter and choppy.
I think you're good now, though.
It's fine now. Okay. So he went to Rome when he was 17. A week before he goes, John Paul II dies. So he's 17 years old. He's not taking his faith seriously. He goes to Rome a week before he goes. John Paul II dies. While he's in Italy, Pope Benedict is elected. He's like, Italy was ecstatic. He said, and the experience was so profound that it kind of like led to his vocation. That's why he became a priest. So he hasn't been to Rome since then. This was 2005. And he's coming with us. The guy that's actually planning it with us. So I'm like, how are we going to do this? Like, I don't know what the deal is with like saying Latin masses in Italy. Like, I have no idea what that's like. So basically the guy helping me organize the trip goes, no, I'm going to give you a list of churches in each city, and you're going to give me like a choice A, choice B, choice C. 90% of these churches, you're going to have a private chapel, and you're going to be able to do whatever you want. So we're basically going to be able to have daily Latin Mass on this pilgrimage. There may be one or two places where we have to have a Novus Ordo just because we're not going to cause a problem while we're in Italy. But for the most part, it's going to be like a daily Latin Mass pilgrimage while we're in Italy. We're going to have a Latin Mass in front of the Miracle of Lanciano. Like, it's going to be an amazing time. So those details will be coming out. And other than that,
you guys aren't using an agency or something? Like, you're planning all of it yourselves?
No, I'm using a guy that's like a tour company, but he's done it so many times. Like, because I was going to reach out to Taylor, and like, I'm like, because Taylor's taking a priest there, and I know he's not doing a Novus Ordo pilgrimage, so I was going to reach out to him and just ask him like what the deal is. But the guy that's doing it for us, it's one guy I'm dealing with. He's like, no, we'll figure this out, we'll get it all done. So
okay,
it's I'm really very much looking forward to it. So when those details are ready, I was hoping to have them tonight, but they're not quite ready yet. So hopefully by Thursday night I'll be able to give you guys all the details, whoever is interested in coming. How was your Christmas, Rob?
It was good. We're feeling better, and then anyone who watched the show on the 27th or whatever saw that I was in a hotel. We went to a nearby hotel just to have a little staycation, let the kids swim. So I spent 15 hours in a pool that weekend. So
how about you, Matt? How was your Christmas and New Year's?
It was good. It was busy. I mean, with my new job, or not so new, I guess I've been doing it about a year now. It's definitely, you don't get the week off like the nature of this job, everybody's required to work the week before Christmas, the week of Christmas. But I'm actually off this week, so kind of getting caught up.
But how has that transition been though? Because you were like you basically went from like you were the editor of Catholic Family News, and then you were trying to like bounce around and like find like a full-time gig in the Catholic media space. But isn't it kind of a relief leaving it? Where like do you have a little bit of sense of a relief leaving it, or
I think it's and it's nice to not have to keep up with every little detail going on and not have to, and be able to do it, I guess, for fun and not be dependent on it for my livelihood. I do miss certain aspects of it, but I mean, I have my own channel going on now and doing reasonably well. So
now would be a good chance to plug it because Ant might not give you another one.
It's called Veritatis Vox. If you just search for that, or you search for my name on YouTube, I'm sure it'll come up. So yeah, it's been going pretty good.
What's interesting is since Leo is elected, like a lot of the Catholic media outfits that were like booming during the Francis era are really not doing so well, you know. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise, and you got out. And
well, clearly it was, because I mean, CFN is no more, as you guys have probably heard.
Yeah.
So I think I was definitely right to leave when I did, because obviously it's not. No, I wouldn't have a job if I had stayed. So.
Yeah, it's just things are changing so much. Like we wanted to do a 2025 year in review mainly because of how crazy 2025 was. I mean, we got a new president, Trump came in, we got a new pope. You had Charlie Kirk died. I mean, those are just like the big things that have just come off the top of my head. But there was some.
The thing is, 26 started off with such a bang that you know.
Yeah, literally, right?
Well, so let's oh man, should we save that for locals? Yeah, we should probably save that for locals. But so the church mainly though, Leo is starting off 2026 with a consistory, and they're going to be discussing liturgy and things like that. So there's a little bit of excitement about that, hoping that some of these insane restrictions from the Francis era are lifted. You also had the Charlotte diocese, the priests in the Charlotte diocese. 31 of them sent a dubia to Rome. Yeah, no, seriously, right? 2025 was the year of the Jew. Like the one thing that's been kind of cool about the Venezuela thing is that we haven't had to hear nonstop about how like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes are the most evil people in the world. It's been like a nice little break between Christmas and then kidnapping a South American dictator. It's like, man, we haven't heard about Jews in 2 weeks. It feels like an eternity.
A couple people have tried to somehow make this, you know, the Venezuela thing a Jewish thing too, but I don't know. It's not like Iraq.
It's not Iran.
It's not Iran or something.
It's a different thing totally. I really do want to discuss Venezuela on the other side though, because Rob and I got into like a little bit of tension yesterday on Twitter.
Forget how Anthony tweets.
I think there was misunderstanding there, but I don't like when you counter signal me on Twitter. Like I don't like it. So I'm like, what's he doing here? Like I was getting really annoyed yesterday, and I'm like, all right, let's just calm down, just relax.
That's
a co-sleeping incident. But hey Anthony, I'm new to Long Island, so yeah, Mass this past Sunday. I've never commented on the channel, but I love what you guys are doing. Wanted to say hello, but never got the chance after Mass. Yeah, if any of you see me after Mass, always come over and say hello. Like, especially if you go to the same church as me. Like, I want to meet the people at my parish, and I usually stick around. You'll usually see Don and I outside talking for a while. Like, so after Mass, it's usually Don and I will talk either if it's at St. Rocco's or if it's at St. Matthew's. Me and Don have the same parish schedule where we hop around a bit. So you'll usually see the two of us out there, and you'll definitely come over and say hello. We like to meet new people, especially Don. Don is such a people person. He really likes when people come over and talk to him. I'm totally kidding about that, by the way. So yeah, the Venezuela thing, like I have so many different thoughts on it, but my tweet yesterday was more about that.
Which one? There was 12 of them.
Right. So the one that set off originally was I said, for like 60 years, they've been pushing this idea of multicultural democracy on us. They
we're doing this on locals.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do that on locals. All right. So we'll get. You're right. That's definitely a better thing to do, especially because it got into some tension between us. All right. So let's do the Bishop Barron tweet because that is the show title. We're already 15 minutes in and we haven't gotten there yet.
We should probably do our actual sponsorship first. Literally, we're the worst at this.
They hate when you do that. Go to recusandsellers.com. Use code BASED at checkout for 10% off. Recus Cellars is an awesome winery out in Washington.
Yes,
they're in Washington State. They ship around the country. They have some amazing wines. You guys missed the boat if you didn't get a bottle for Christmas, but they're
Valentine's Day is coming up.
Valentine's Day is coming up, but they're also just like a really nice gift to bring to your in-laws if you're going over there. The priest who's coming on pilgrimage with me told me that somebody at his parish who watches the show bought him a bottle of Recus Cellars for Christmas, and he said the wine was amazing. So, yeah, and definitely check them out. They are great supporters of the show. They don't just say they're going to advertise with us; they actually advertise with us. They're not like the guys at Fat Thins or Knickknacks. Like they actually advertise with us. So we love Recus Cellars. They've never told us anything we can or can't say. They support pretty much everything that we do.
But I do like the Knickknacks too.
I do too. I've been so it's New Year's and diet and no smoking has begun. So I'm 2 days no cigarettes. So and
You've done no
ever
smoking for New Year's every year I've known you.
No, I did no smoking after I almost died at my daughter's birthday.
Oh, that's right. You passed out.
I almost died at my daughter's birthday.
From
I quit
smoking?
smoking from. Dude, no, I was just so dehydrated, and I didn't drink or eat anything all day. This is such an all over the place show, guys. I'm so sorry.
To be fair,
I'm so sorry.
You probably did drink things.
It's our first show back in weeks, but. So it was my daughter's birthday, and we were having her sweet 16, and I was like prepping the yard all day. I never drank a sip of water. I never ate a stitch of food. The first thing I drink is a beer at like 3 p.m, and I just drink beer the rest of the night. Like 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting and I'm arguing with my sister-in-law, like really heated argument with my sister-in-law, because that's what I always do. I always start fights with people. I was like mid-sentence yelling at her about something, and I just went out, like totally passed out. They thought I died. My brother Mikey like smacks me in the face and gets me to wake up, and I wake up and he starts walking me towards the house, and I collapsed again and I passed out again. My body was just so spent and dehydrated. I just started like so then I wake up. My wife is flipping out at this point, like she thought I died, and they called an ambulance, and then the cops come and an ambulance comes, and we have to convince them that it was a false alarm and that I'm totally fine. And it was just a really crazy night. So that night I promised my wife I was going to quit smoking, which I did. I think I quit for a long time, but maybe
you started when you went back to Italy.
So it was like a year and a half. It was like a year and a half I hadn't smoked. I threw the vape out. I threw cigarettes out, everything. And I went like a year and a half without smoking. I had the straw in my mouth every show. And then I went to Italy, and the evil villain Bobby that came to my house this weekend got me smoking. So while he was here, we both agreed we were going to quit smoking. So I'm on day 2, no cigarettes. Going easier than I thought it would. I thought it was going to be very stressful, but they've been tolerable.
Nothing. We mentioned Knickknacks, which is nicotine mints.
Lozenges. They're like nicotine mints, and they said they were going to. Yeah, they said they were going to advertise with us, but I got my free sample, but. Still waiting. So where was I? What got us on this?
Bishop Barron's tweet.
So Bishop Barron's tweet.
Let me bring
you want to bring it up?
Yeah.
So so the consistory is happening in Rome. I think tomorrow it starts. Oh, today it started. Started
tomorrow, actually. So the 7th and the
8th. Not a Newport Light. It was a Newport Patrick. So he called it consistory, which is very different already from Francis, because Francis did not did not call consistories. Essentially, he would only call them to elevate a new bishop, but he did not give the cardinals time to get to know one another during his entire pontificate. It was like he was purposely trying to keep them apart for whatever reason.
He did at the very beginning for the synods on the family. I think it was in 2014, actually, when Cardinal Cardinal Casper gave his very controversial speech about essentially what led to Amoris Laetitia and opening the sacraments to divorced and civilly remarried Catholics, all that stuff. So after that, and I think with all the pushback that they got from all of that, I think that's when Francis put the kibosh on it.
So somebody's telling me to try Shantex. I tried Shantex years ago, and when I tell you, it gives you the most horrific nightmares you can possibly imagine. Like, you have nightmares of like murdering your family, and you think it's real. Wow. And like, you will wake up thinking you killed your family. Like, that is how never ever will I take that stuff ever again. They were the most horrible nightmares I've ever had.
This is something to help you stop smoking, I take it.
Yeah, Shantex is supposed to help you stop smoking. Like, the warnings on it are like suicidal thoughts and like murderous rage. Sheesh. It's so crazy. I
have a feeling if you were on Shantex now, I would get a text every morning.
Oh man,
choked you again in my sleep last night.
I cannot. Yeah, I would have killed you several times in my dreams.
Especially after yesterday.
All right, so bring up Barron's tweet, because Barron's tweet was actually pretty good. I saw a lot of people talking about it today. So I understand that one of the topics under consideration at the consistory of cardinals is synodality. I'm speaking as a bishop who is an elected delegate to both rounds of the synod and the synodality. And
I think he meant synod on synodality.
On synod, whatever that even means, in Rome. And his sentence is more coherent than the actual thing. So in Rome, and who has just presided over a local synod in my own diocese. Synods are good and useful tools for the determination of practical pastoral strategies, but they oughtn't to be forums for debate regarding doctrine. When settled teaching becomes a subject for synodal determination, the church devolves into relativism and self-doubt, as is clearly evident in the misconceived synodal way in Germany. I'm sympathetic with the founders of the journal Communio, Joseph Ratzinger, von Balthasar, Henry de Lubac, who broke with the journal Concilium, the stated purpose of which was the perpetuation of the spirit of Vatican II. The great Communio theologian said that the councils are indeed sometimes necessary in the life of the church, but that one sighs with relief at the end of a council, for the church can then returns to its essential work. As long as it sits in council, the church is in suspense, unsure of itself, wringing its hands. It is precisely the perpetuation of the spirit of Vatican II that led to so much vacillation and drift in the years when I was coming of age. So if we must continue with synodality, let it be dedicated to the consideration of practical means by which the church can more effectively do its work of worshiping God, evangelizing, and serving the poor, and let it not be a defining and permanent feature of the church's life, lest we lose our verve and focus. It is interesting, because even the proponents of synodality have had it with synodality. Like, it's just that you heard Leo say it a few times already, where he's like, I don't understand why people are not focused on synodality. I just saw comments by the bishop in Gaza. What's his name? The Cardinal
Pizzaballa.
Cardinal Pizzaballa almost said it like flippantly, like laughing. Mark Sitio talked about this. It was like he was just like, the people of Europe and their synodality, like, it's just irrelevant to us. Like, the people I deal with, they're very traditional. They don't like the Western church is just always in this perpetual state of what can we change, where the people he deals with it's just alien to them. But I don't think that the guys that are pushing for the synodality, like, they don't even realize that even the Western church is just, we don't care about this stuff anymore.
I think Barron, I don't know, I find Barron's tweet kind of ironic, considering that he's such a major proponent of Vatican II. And that's really what the Synod on Synodality at its core was all about. I mean, even one of the delegates said it's a continuation of Vatican II. What else?
Okay.
Let me.
I don't
There's
know.
one other thing
yes.
I was going to say. I also take issue with his description of what a church council is like. He says as long as it sits in council, the church is in suspense, unsure of itself, wringing its hands. Maybe that was true at Vatican II, but I don't think that's the case.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case for most councils in church history.
Well, maybe Trent, right? Like Trent was addressing the Protestant Reformation. There might have been like, I don't know. We don't know because we weren't around for those councils, but they are. I mean, you're usually a council is called to deal with some kind of a heresy. So I can understand that perspective, but you're saying Barron is such a Vatican II guy, but I think Barron is a JP2 Vatican II guy where like these guys seemed like they were liturgical modernists, and even doctrinal modernists, but they thought like the moral law wasn't going to change. You know, like it's very similar to conservative American politics where it's like, okay, no to gay marriage, homosexuality is sinful. You know, like there's like a few things. It's like, okay, you're against abortion, homosexuality is sinful, and you're against gay marriage. And those are like the three pillars of American conservatism and American Catholicism, or Vatican II Catholicism. As long as you keep those three things intact, everything else is pretty much up for grabs. And I think when Francis comes in and he starts playing around with fiducia supplicans and things like that, that was like a bridge too far for a lot of these guys. But they don't care about the Amazonian liturgy that they were talking about. Like that stuff doesn't bother them nearly as much as just don't play games with same-sex marriage and you know, abortion. Like that's pretty much how I see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like they don't understand the connection between dogma and morality. Like you can't go after doctrine and then expect morality to remain intact. And that's kind of what they're expecting. I guess that's how I see it.
Yeah, all right. Well, with Barron's he's such an interesting guy, man, because he is like the proponent of beige Catholicism, yet he's its biggest critic.
Right.
You know, like he'll go on and he'll speak with Jordan Peterson about how the church has, you know, lost its zeal for talking about God's justice, and all it talks about is God's mercy. But then he goes and writes a foreword to James Martin's book, Building Bridges and stuff. Like he's so unsure of his own. Like I think he understands what the problem is, but.
Right. I think Hans Urs von Balthasar, if I remember correctly, isn't he the guy who promoted the notion that like universalism, eventually no one's going to end up in hell. Everyone will be saved. I'm pretty sure it was Balthasar.
Yeah, he's the Dare We Hope.
Yeah, that guy.
Theologian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Barron's like one of its biggest proponents, like the Dare We Hope thesis. He also, I mean, we could criticize Barron for his conversation with Ben Shapiro and stuff like that, but I do think like synodality has just run its course, and what you have is a lot of the older bishops and cardinals remember their youth, and they grew up and they come into the priesthood during the sexual revolution, and during that time the sexual revolution is happening, and you have the gay rights movements, and you have all these things about sexuality happening. And I think that these older bishops think they're talking to the youth by continuing talking about the issues that mattered when they were young. And they have no concept of the fact that all of that has changed. Like none of the youth care about that anymore. Like it's just completely dropped off our radar. We're sick of talking about Vatican II. We're sick of talking about same-sex marriage and all that stuff. Like all that stuff should just be in the past now. And I think even the younger Catholics coming up, like they kind of just want like even the Novus Ordo normies, the young kids that are coming into the church, like they may not be traditionalists, but they want conservative Catholicism. The
Gen Z, you know, the Zoomers at the Novus Ordo are talking about what the church teaches on race and nationalism.
Yeah,
they don't care about, you know, women being ordained as priests and all that BS.
Do you remember do you remember when the USCCB like came out with a statement against Nick Fuentes, but they basically just published a letter that the ADL wrote?
Yes. Yeah.
Like that whole thing happened. Like they really have no idea what is happening in the movement of the youth. These guys are so disconnected from what is actually happening on the ground. Like every young Catholic guy I know is talking about the Jewish question. They're talking about race relations. They're talking about immigration in such a different way from the guys at the top. It's almost like they're speaking different languages. Good talk, guys. You guys do know you're part of this show. Like I can't just monologue the whole time, right?
I think the other thing I had to come to mind as far as Bishop Barron, I mean, he talks about, you know, the spirit of Vatican II versus the council itself. He says it was what does he say? It was precisely the perpetuation of the spirit of Vatican II that has led to so much vacillation and drift in the years when I was coming of age. But I think, I mean, eventually people have to be honest and say the spirit has something to do with the documents. Like that's where do we think the spirit came from? And the spirit we're talking about is the spirit of revolution. Actually, I was just reading here. Let me got it on my little desk over here. Pardon my reach. I hadn't looked at this for many years. This came out in the year 2000. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this before, but it was a joint statement by a guy down in, where is he? I can't remember. He's in charge of this apostolical tradition and in action. I think he's Brazilian. Attila Cinque Guimarães. I'm sure I butchered that last name. Michael Matt, John Venari, and Marian Therese Horvat, who I think has since passed away. So God rest her soul. And so John Venari as well. But I mean, this was during the JP2 years, the year 2000. And they're talking about, we resist you to the face. And they're describing, you know, why they're putting this out, why they're putting this joint declaration out there. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought.
What do you think? What do you think? What do you think happens with all this stuff? Like, I'm looking at even these priests in Charlotte. Like, do you think these guys face backlash? Like, because they sent a dubia to Rome, but they didn't send it to the dicastery for divine worship. Like they sent it to the dicastery for theological texts or something like that, which is liturgical texts, right? And which is interesting because it's. I mean, I got this from Mike Lewis. I read Mike Lewis's Substack. Bishop Paprocki a year or two ago, the feast of the Immaculate Conception fell on a Sunday, and typically what the U.S. bishops do is if a feast falls on the Sunday, they release you from your holy day of obligation, where it should have been moved to the Monday, especially for a feast like the Immaculate Conception. That's like one of the holiest of holy days for Catholics, right? So if the feast day lands on a Sunday, the obligation would move to a Monday. So the USCCB puts out a statement saying, hey, the Sunday, you know, the holy day of obligation is we're gonna put it aside. You guys you don't have an obligation to attend. So Paprocki sent a dubia to this dicastery, and they send back telling him, yes, the obligation has to get moved to Monday. So it sent the USCCB into a tailspin. Half the dioceses in America then follow what that dubia answer is. So like half of them are scrambling and they're like, oh, you guys have to go to mass on Monday, the 9th. And the other half of the bishops were basically like, we're dispensing you from your obligation. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. So then it gets sent to the dicastery for divine worship, where you had, what's his name?
Carl Roach.
Roach,
yeah.
Then universally dispenses everyone of the dispensation for the following year. So like it was this big debacle and Paprocki, and I think Paprocki did it because he was looking at it like, look, this is the Immaculate Conception. Like this is supposed to be a very big feast day, and it should be moved to the Monday if it falls on a Saturday or Sunday. Like whereas, you know, other holy days of obligation, if they land on Saturday or Sunday, it's like maybe you could dispense the obligation, but not that one. So, but once it goes through the CDW, it's the USCCB gets the authority to basically dispense with the obligation. So now these 31 priests send their dubia to the dicastery for liturgical texts. Now the thing is this letter, it's not, because a lot of people think it's just altar rails. It's not just altar rails. Like Bishop Martins is telling them they can't pray when they vest for mass. Like there's all these weird things that he's like stripping away from them, and they're all beside themselves. Like, does he even have the authority to tell us we can't like pray as we're vesting from it. It's like all these really strange things.
No,
so now
he doesn't.
Well, that's
answer.
So I have a feeling they're going to get something good from the dicastery they sent it from, but that may but maybe that's good because it'll cause a bigger spotlight on this whole issue. And I mean, there's no possible way Martins did what he did with the kneelers without Leo knowing what's going on. Like, he's an American cardinal before he becomes Pope. He has to know what's going on.
Well, what's so bizarre about it, I mean, if you want to get technical, I mean, as I recall, there was a document released when Cardinal Francis Arinze was the prefect for the Congregation for Divine Worship back in the early 2000s, called Sacramentum, Redemptionis Sacramentum, something like that. And that explicitly states that every Catholic has the right to receive Holy Communion either standing or kneeling according to his own preference. So, I mean, that's still the law of the church as far as I know.
But it's still the law in Charlotte. Like, you can still kneel for communion in Charlotte. That's not what the issue is. Like, if you still want to go up and
he just wants to make it as uncomfortable as possible.
Yes. And what's crazy is if you read his letter, the letter that he wrote. So basically what was happening is a lot of priests were bringing out portable kneelers for older lay people who had a difficulty kneeling on the ground, because people were coming up and kneeling for communion on the ground. And they were older people who wanted to kneel for communion. And he's like, they can't even stand up. Like, people have to help them get up. It was difficult for them. So he put like a portable kneeler in to assist the elderly. And Martins banned those. And it's like, what a cruel thing to do to these older people. And his reasoning is, if you put this in, people will feel pressured to kneel for communion. We just had Rob, do you have the can you find the clip I posted of Jonathan Roumie?
Probably.
Look up Jonathan Roumie on my Twitter and see if we can pull that clip up. So Jonathan Roumie was talking with Father Mike Schmitz a week or two ago, and he talks about how he is going to he feels this the Holy Spirit like calling him to show more reverence, and he goes to kneel for communion, and he goes to a priest, and the priest makes him stand up, and he's so confused. I'll let him tell the story, but the irony of this whole thing, you have it. Let's play the clip of him, because I have thoughts on this, and we didn't do a show afterward, and I was like, I really did want to discuss this.
Yeah, I mean, even in the last year, I started feeling, I'll use the word again, convicted to give more reverence to Christ in his form in the Eucharist. And I started receiving on my knees and on the tongue, which I hadn't before. I just kept feeling the Holy Spirit just like, no, you should do that. And it was a little just kind of disorienting at first. I'm like, oh, okay. And so I went to a church and I received on my knees, and the priest wanted me to get up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I waited for a second, and then I got up, and then I finished Mass and I left, and I had a conversation with my spiritual director about it. I'm like, is that permissible? He's like, probably wasn't the best thing for him to do. He shouldn't do that. Yeah. And so, but it happens, and everybody's got their their way. And I talked to him afterwards, and I said, well, let me ask you, why did you make me stand up? He's like, well, if I allowed you to do that, then anybody can just do whatever they want. And I said, yeah, but isn't it the more reverential form to receive? He's like, yes, but we have to do things a certain way. I said, okay. So I left, and then I talked to my spiritual director, and I then was now reinvested, and I doubled down. I was a little nervous going to other places. I'm like, what if that happens again?
Right.
And then people know who I am, and then it's just like, the unknown is the source of anxiety. Even going to Mass for me, just like, I don't know what's going to happen or who's going to come up to me. So, but I doubled down on it, and now I'm prepared to just wait as long as I need to until somebody concedes, because I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So
Because it is your right as a Catholic. It's your right to receive on your knees, on the tongue, as a Catholic.
So that's it. Did I fix my mic? Does my mic sound better now?
I didn't notice anything wrong with your mic.
I think I was using the headphone mic, not my actual mic, because people were saying there was noise in the background. So okay, so the crazy thing about that clip is when I posted that, people below that tweet, and all I didn't even post context. I just said Jonathan Roumie describes a situation where a priest denied
Jonathan Roumie tells Father Mike that he was recently denied communion because he tried to kneel and receive on the tongue. That's all you said.
So I don't actually put my own commentary on it, right? And people below that are saying, why do you people need to virtue signal publicly? The mass isn't the place to put on a show like this. The people who don't kneel for communion, when they see someone who goes up and kneels for communion, in their eyes, that person is just doing it out of pride. When it's like the total inverse, like for Jonathan Roumie to go up, now he's a famous guy. He's, Jesus from The Chosen. For him to go up and kneel for communion and make a spectacle of himself when he really probably doesn't want to be noticed. Like he probably doesn't actually want anybody to notice him. Like it probably took like tremendous courage for him to go up, kneel, and receive on the tongue. Because I know the first few times I did it at the Novus Ordo, it took a lot of courage. And like it finally got to a point when I was still going, like I would just do it and I didn't care anymore. But those first few times, especially, you're incredibly nervous. You don't want to draw attention to yourself. You're terrified that you're going to get denied communion. I was denied communion, I think 3 or 4 times during COVID. Like during COVID, I tried going and receiving communion 3 or 4 times, and they denied me communion on the tongue. So the people who see that think that you're virtue signaling when it's the total inverse, and the people are really like, I don't want to make a spectacle of myself. I'm doing this because I feel like it's the only way I can show reverence in this horrific liturgy that I'm forced to attend. Right. And it's just funny how people actually have the opposite in mind. So now Bishop Martin's, these people are going up. These are older people who could barely kneel to begin with. The priest, out of mercy, puts in a temporary kneeler so that it's easier for them to get up and down. And Martin's in his letter says, we're not going to allow it because some people may think they are obligated to kneel if they see that kneeler there. And that's his reasoning for it. So now these older people are going to kneel, possibly break a hip or a knee, or not be able to get up, make a total spectacle of themselves. And his reasoning is it may make other people think that they should kneel, and that's just not the norm.
Yeah, I have his letter pulled up right now. What is he saying? According to liturgical norms, regional Episcopal conferences are entrusted with establishing more precise norms for the reception of Holy Communion. It goes on about USCCB, blah, blah, blah. But he does reference the document I was saying, Redemptionis Sacramentum. He says the normative posture for all the faithful in the United States is standing, according to the USCCB, not taking into account Catholic tradition at all. It is nonetheless the free choice of an individual member of the faithful to kneel, and communion cannot be denied this individual solely based on their posture. But then he must go on to say, down further, it's saying the use of altar rails, kneelers, and pray-dos are not to be utilized for the reception of communion in public celebrations by January 16th. Huh. So weird. So malicious.
Is it still happening with my mic, Rob?
Beyond weird.
No, it's not your mic.
What is it?
I'm not sure.
But people are still hearing this background noise? I think it's Matt.
Is it me?
Yeah. I was going to tell you got to get a better mic.
I do need to do that.
Which is ironic.
I can't. What's really weird, I can't hear myself through my own headphones, and usually I can. I don't know what's going on with that. But
It sounds like you're on your computer mic and not your headphone mic. That's why.
Oh, maybe
to
that
check
is
your output. Like it does sound like you're on your computer mic.
weird. Maybe that is the problem. All right, I'll see what I can figure out.
Yeah, so the whole point is that these guys, for once, I actually have a decent mic now because Rob made me get one.
Yeah, that's the mic I used to have.
Is that?
So the sociopathy of these guys, it's the same thing with the I think it was it Kansas or something? The guy that the bishop just basically said, we've been told by the dicastery for divine worship that we have to implement the Latin Novus Ordo. Like he was never actually told that. He never even sent in another request to extend the Latin Mass privilege, and basically he just let it die, and they sent him permission to say the Latin Novus Ordo. I am curious to see how all this pans out, because I don't even know what's going on with the trad movement anymore. Like everything seems so disjointed.
I was gonna say, is there even really one single trad movement anymore?
Everything seems so disjointed where there was like actual, it felt like there was momentum under Francis, but now that like we've lost that you know, like that point of anger where we're not all, it's kind of like if you're fighting with your wife, there's nothing better for your relationship than when you both hate the same person. Like if you go and like if your wife's having a problem with somebody, she's like, I can't stand it. You're like, yeah, I can't stand that one either. Like all of a sudden, you and your wife, no matter what you're fighting about, goes away, and you and your wife are best friends again because you hate that one person. That was what Francis was for us. He was
Sadly, yes.
There you go, Matt. You sound much better.
Okay.
Much better. So yeah, that is what Francis was. He was this common, like just the villain.
He was the great unifier.
He was the great unifier. It was like when all the Catholic content creators hated Michael Lofton, right? So it was like back then you could have
or
a
Michael
show,
Voris. What's the deal with all the Michaels?
Trads like conservatives after Charlie Kirk firing squad faced each other. Yeah, it kind of did. It's man.
Although I will say at this point, we're like 7 or 8 months into the Leo pontificate. I think the honeymoon phase is definitely worn off for most people. Like most people who were cheerleading for him at the beginning, like, of a conservative or traditional mindset, I think a lot of them have backed down quite a bit on that and are a little more reserved. I mean, at least that's kind of what I've seen.
What I'm watching is like where there would have been like a unified front before. Now I'm watching the circular firing squad is happening, right? So you were on with us for an episode of that recently, Matt, when it was like we were you have basically like the guys who lean more sedevacantists basically talking about trad Inc. and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens with all of this stuff. Like I feel like Catholic content is so you have like the normie guys who are still doing the like 5 arguments that totally destroy Protestantism. Like you always have those guys. Those guys are always going to exist. But the guys who are actually creating like original content and like coming in and having conversations and stuff, that landscape just seems totally dead. There's a couple of guys left doing it. And there's some new guys popping up that are interesting. But it doesn't seem like there's anybody working together anymore. Like I don't think you're gonna have some big trad conference where everybody comes together and stuff. It's I don't know, man. So what do you mean by the honeymoon phase is over? Like what do you think is settling in?
Well, I think like the boundless optimism is gone. Like even from people that I consider friends, like, like I think Catholic Unscripted was like Mark over there was pretty pro, like very excited about Leo, and Dr. Kwasniewski seemed to be that way at the beginning as well. And there are others, but they seem to have quieted down in that regard and are willing to, critique when necessary. And I think the critiques are going to become more and more frequent and more necessary. I mean, for me, Leo has been concerning since day 3, basically. When I heard him say that he wants the cardinals and basically the whole church to be completely committed to the path that the church has been on since Vatican II. That was really it for me.
I don't know, man. Like I feel like Leo's exactly who I thought he would be.
Yeah.
I feel like Leo,
and I wasn't surprised for him to say that. I'm just saying, like, I was willing to be optimistic maybe on like day 1 and day 2, but after I heard that pretty much told me everything.
I'll tell you, like, it was like the stages of grief for me. It was kind of like I went through like stages of grief, because when he first got elected, like there was like this tiny bit of hope that he chose the name Leo. But I had Tim Gordon on, and Tim Gordon was just like, okay, this guy's from Chicago. He's friends with Supich. He's a protege of Bernadette. Like, he went through all this stuff, and I was just like, whoa, we got Francis too. And then I went, no, I don't think anybody could be Francis too. Like, I just don't think anybody, like, Francis was just so unlikable. I don't think you could recreate Francis. Like, he just was really unlikable, and Leo just doesn't have that kind of temperament, and you kind of figured that one out within a couple of days. So by day 3, I was actually having the opposite reaction, where I was like, okay, I think the hostility towards the papacy needs to end. Like, and it wasn't out of like what Taylor did, like where Taylor was like, he gave his whole like, I'm a obedient son of Pope Leo or whatever. Right. It wasn't so much that as just feeling like Catholics shouldn't have this oppositional like posture towards the Pope. Like, it's not good for a Catholic to have that oppositional posture towards the Pope, even if you have those feelings towards him, and even if you're really like, if he's not being as aggressive and ruthless as Francis was, we need to just chill out, So there was,
and I guess I should clarify, like somebody's saying in the chat, somebody recently said something like, what did he say? Boundless optimism is one thing, but if you don't think he's even a slight improvement, you may be a hater. Yeah, obviously I don't think he's like personality wise and temperament wise, the way he carries himself, obviously an improvement from Francis, but I still maintain, doctrinally, there's simply not a substantial difference between Francis and Leo, not from what I've seen. There's certainly a difference in aesthetics, but Leo has on multiple occasions, as we all know, praised Francis, claims that he's already in heaven looking down, praying for us, all that kind of stuff. But then also getting into the Vatican II stuff, like I said, on day 3, in his first formal, and I think he's probably going to bring up Vatican II. I'll be surprised if he doesn't bring up the council during the consistory and anchor it all in obedience to the council.
I mean, but what do you expect?
Like,
they weren't ever going to elect anyone that.
If you got a Cardinal Burke as Pope, he would be doing the same thing.
Well, exactly. And I'm not saying any of this that I'm going to be surprised about it, but that's where, like, I'm not willing to be a cheerleader for someone who's pushing the conciliar revolution. You know what I mean?
but that's kind of my point. Like, all right. I have just especially over the past month or so, have just come to the point where I go back and I think about things that Padre Pio said, and I think about things that some of the saints said, where it's like, you criticize the hierarchy at your own peril, because you are now putting yourself in judgment of the hierarchy. And it's like when you put yourself in that position, you are going to be held to such a higher standard. So we all know what's going on. Like, we know what is like, we know it's not, so I'm not ever going to praise the stuff they do. I'm not going to be, Leo's a based Pope or anything. I'm just going to ignore it. And but it will be interesting to watch what happens with this consistory. It will be interesting to watch what happens with that dubia that's sent to Rome. These are things that are always things that you have to keep an eye on, right? Because even the guys who say they're sedevacantists, they're watching this stuff too. Like, everybody who like kind of like, anybody who will criticize me for my position on like not saying Leo's like, because I think Leo is the Pope, right? So like the guys who will criticize me for taking that position, they're just as interested in what's happening in Rome as I am, because I don't care if they are correct in their position. It doesn't matter, because the world thinks he's the Pope, and what the Bishop of Rome does matter. Like whatever Rome does matters to the world. Same thing with the Orthodox. The Orthodox are all paying attention to this stuff too, because the whole world knows what happens in Rome matters. So you know, a lot of guys will make it like, I don't really care what happens in Rome, because it matters very much to all of us. So yeah, we're going to watch things like this consistory, and we're going to watch things like that dubia, because we want to see what life is going to be like for your everyday Catholic over the course of this papacy. Because the fact is, most of us are left with whatever options are in our diocese, right? And what Leo does in this papacy is going to make or break like what your Catholic living looks like. So I have kids that I'm trying to bring up as Catholic. There's days where my kids have something to do and they don't want to drive all the way to go to the Latin Mass because it's an hour and 20 minutes away. So they're stuck going to some crummy Novus Ordo. So if something good comes out of that consistory, that could affect my kids' daily life as a Catholic. So I'm very interested in this stuff.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I've been reading Diane Montagne's Substack. She's been releasing some good stuff the last couple days, and apparently there's some sort of a letter was sent by one of the heads of the former Ecclesia Dei communities, St. Vincent Ferrer, I think, Fraternity of St. Vincent Ferrer, and basically addressing all the cardinals who are going to attend the consistory and presenting an idea that in order to resolve the situation with Traditionis Custodes and get wider access to the traditional Mass, essentially he's proposing that maybe the cardinals could present this idea to the Pope or something like that, that the Pope create a non-territorial ecclesiastical jurisdiction, like something the equivalent of like a military diocese that's not territorial, but it's it overlaps with existing dioceses, something like that.
So wasn't that what Ecclesia Dei was supposed to be, though?
Not exactly, because I mean, what's envisioned, as I understand it in this letter, is that there would be bishops, like priests, in other words, who belong to the former Ecclesia Dei communities would be candidates to be bishops to oversee this ordinariate thing.
They would have jurisdiction just like a territorial diocese would, but they would not be territorially based.
Right.
Yeah, so basically like an Anglican ordinariate, though, would that essentially be it?
Something like that, yeah, where it's not based on territory, but it's based on people voluntarily belonging to this ecclesiastical jurisdiction.
The one interesting thing that Francis did, which I think is actually correct, in Traditionis Custodes, was that he called it a bi-ritual. Like he said, because I don't like that we're talking about the extraordinary form and the ordinary form.
Right.
Like it's not. It's a different rite. Like I'm sorry, but there is no way you could call the Novus Ordo the Roman rite. Like it's just not. The Roman rite is the traditional liturgy that was organically developed over the centuries, and the Novus Ordo was basically a new rite that they invented.
Yeah, that's, I mean, all the six use the term new rite. So
yeah, I mean, it has elements of the Roman rite, but the Roman rite, the extraordinariate. I saw a couple of
that's great.
That's actually kind of funny. So I do like the idea of it being a different rite. Like we have, you have the Byzantines, and you have I think that the traditional liturgy is a different rite than the Novus Ordo. Now, the problem is it does kind of ghettoize Latin Mass goers even more. And it also still, I think, like the local bishop would still have like jurisdiction to not allow them in or something like that.
That would be the whole point of this.
Yeah, it doesn't really solve anything. Like, would they need chapels? Or would they have parish churches? I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see.
Here's what
I don't think this idea will be even taken seriously there.
Probably not. This priest, I'm not going to, he's a French priest, Father Louis Marie. I'm not going to attempt his last name because I'll butcher it. But he says in this letter The creation of dedicated ecclesiastical jurisdictions would move matters forward towards stability, peace, and unity, given its specificity and the experience of its history over several decades. And from the standpoint of sound pastoral practice, it would be natural for this group to be under the authority of pastors vested with the episcopal character, and for these bishops to come from the groups they are called to lead. In other words, trad bishops, which is what we've been at, which is what the whole goal has been since St. Pius, the Society of St. Pius X and Lefebvre.
I kind of get what he's saying, though. He's like, look, there's because they're trying to make it like trads or schismatic, right? But what he's getting at is, no, we're talking about a group of people who want to practice the faith in a form that is more closely aligned with the form it had before the council, but they still want to be in communion with Rome. Like, they don't want to be schismatic. They don't want to be forced into a canonically irregular situation.
Right.
Like, we don't want that. We want to be able to, just like a Byzantine Catholic could go, no, I'm Catholic, I'm Byzantine, but you get to escape the Novus Ordo. You're freaking Mexican. You go to a Byzantine church and you get to say you're Catholic. Like, I want to go to a Latin mass and say I'm Catholic. Like, I don't want to have this opposition towards the hierarchy. I want to be in communion with Rome. I want to be in communion with other Catholics. I just don't want to attend your crummy gay liturgy that you forced upon us. Like, that's honestly what it comes down to. I understand, like, the catechism stays the same. Like, we all believe the same thing, but I don't want to attend a liturgy where there's girls running around the sanctuary.
But that's the real question, I guess, right there is, do we all believe the same thing? I don't know if we do.
I'm willing to overlook the absurdities of what they'll be doing in the Novus Ordo for the sake of, I know I'm going to get killed for this, but like, I know it's not real unity if it's not unity in doctrine. I know that. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm not even going to.
So I
don't want to be outside the bounds of the Catholic Church. I don't want to be outside the bounds of the Catholic Church. I want to be inside the bounds of the Catholic Church. I want to practice the Catholic faith. Like, is that so freaking hard? Is that really that hard? I don't get why they won't let me be Catholic.
So here's what this priest says.
I just want to be Catholic, you assholes.
This is what the priest says in his letter. For priests and faithful who would enroll in these jurisdictions, so it obviously would be voluntary, this would foster, outside the tensions of a contentious situation, and drumroll please, acceptance of Vatican II. There it is, right there. In accordance.
What does that even mean anymore, though? Like, really, what does that even mean anymore?
It means, what I think it means is that I accept Vatican II in as much as Vatican II reiterated the faith of all time. Of course.
What is it? Come on.
But I don't, but that what they want you to accept is the novelties that contradict the faith. That's the problem.
But look, if you're telling me I have to, oh man.
They want you to accept.
Does that mean I can't
false
make fun
ecumenism? They want you to accept religious liberty, which I was just reading today. Henry Sire completely torches that in his book Phoenix from the Ashes. I hadn't read that for a while either.
Does that mean I'm not allowed to make fun of their stupid gatherings with the Hindus and stuff in Rome? Like, is that what it means? Like, I have to accept that stuff because
that's part of it. And Leo just celebrated Nostra Aetate last October. 60th anniversary.
I feel like I don't know, like, I'm not well read enough on the religious liberty stuff to actually argue against it, but like the Nostra Aetate stuff, I'm a high school dropout. When I read that, I'm just like, the red flags go off and I'm just like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? I don't understand. Like, what is this soupy language that you're using? Why is our posture towards Jews changed? Like, I cannot read those things and separate them from the events of World War II and the Holocaust narrative. Like, I just can't. And, I don't know. So, and all of that will actually lead us over towards locals, which we're going to go do now, because I put out a tweet talking about the post-war consensus, basically saying how over 60 years, they convinced us to open our borders. They weaponized Christian empathy and convinced us to treat others as you want to be treated, to love your enemy. We allowed foreigners in. They've completely overtaken our country at this point. And now it feels like they are using the natural tensions between Muslims and Christians, which there are very real tensions between Muslims and Christians. We fought a crusade over the Holy Land against these people, but that natural tension that's already there, it feels
nine crusades, but
yeah, well, you know what I mean. You know what I'm getting at. Like there's like Islam has always been a chastisement from God. And now that they are in our borders, it feels like they are just provoking that enmity that's between Muslims and Christians. And that is what I think that's what kind of set off the thing with me and Rob, because I talked about psyops and Rob was like, you can't just say that's a psyop. So we'll get into that a little bit and I'll try to explain myself better, because I know when Rob and I talk, it always ends up better than when we tweet and we text.
There you go.
So we'll get into some of the tensions there. I want to talk about Venezuela, because that also caused another little miscommunication between us, where I think Rob thought I was saying something I wasn't. I'm curious to hear Rob's thoughts on the geopolitical situation over there, because he knows a little bit more about this stuff than I do, especially with the Greenland stuff. Yeah, we were talking about, somebody said today, I tweeted out, I was like,
it's the language barrier.
It's definitely a language barrier. I tweeted out, therapy is gay, go to confess, be a man and go to confession. And somebody said, yeah, therapy is gay, just go start a podcast and pour your soul out on a podcast. It's like actually kind of what I do.
It's like, damn, that hurt a little.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of like the tweet somebody said about me the other day. They were like, don't take this guy too seriously. No, honestly, Molly, like I was on the verge of like exploding yesterday. I'm like, what? Why is he doing this publicly? Like, if you have something to say to me, say it private. Why are you doing this publicly?
Because
like,
you say the crap publicly. What do you want me to do?
Okay, here's the funny thing about Rob, though. He knows, like 99% of the time, I'm saying something to provoke or like to troll, and he still goes for it. I'm like, dude, first off, I'll tell you what I'm really doing in those tweets, though, Rob. I'm kind of laying out thoughts so that I don't forget them. And I'm like kind of working
it's
them
all
out.
Stream
like,
of consciousness.
Yeah, basically a stream of consciousness.
I forget
like
that you're not actually trying to get to a point. You don't have a point. You're tweeting whatever is literally in your brain at that exact moment.
At that moment, because I don't want to forget it. And I'm like, all right, I know I could go back to this if I just, and it leads to like a deeper thing. And then I like working it out on air with you, because sometimes you tell me I'm batshit crazy. And sometimes, I guess we know who
Don.
that is.
Don.
I can't believe Rob caved before Don. Matt is like the kid that watching mom and dad fight again. Yeah,
like Kennedy was that one night. Poor Kennedy.
My boat's fixed. I don't have to farm money for my boat anymore. My boat's fixed. It's paid off. Everything's done. Who needs internal monologue where you can just post tweets on X? So that's what we'll do. We'll go through that tweet. We'll go through what Rob took issue with. I'll try to explain it better. And it was more because I was trying to get a thought out, because like I had a rant that I wanted to go on with it. I was almost considering doing like a video from the truck, a truck video kind of thing on it. And then Rob started fighting with me. It threw me completely off my game. And I just was frustrated.
I was successful then.
You blew my truck video. So, all right. So we're going to go over to locals. I want to hear Matt's thoughts on Venezuela as well, because this is weird. Like, I don't know what my position is on it. So, all right, we'll hop over there. Everybody, if you're not a locals member, that's where we actually get into good stuff and not church politics. Usually we just tell personal stories or fight or gossip. Don't tell anybody. What happens on locals stays on locals. And go subscribe to, what is it, Matt? Veritatis
Vox. It's based on our Lord's words to Pontius Pilate in John 18:37, that he came, for this I was born, for this I came into the world, to give testimony to the truth, and those who are of the truth hear my voice. So voice of truth, Veritatis Vox.
Yeah, we got to talk to you trads about marketing and branding. No, you want to know something, Rob? What was? Oh, I was. You know what my original name for this channel was going to be?
Pelican Plus.
I'm not going to top that, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
That's the clip for tonight, right there.
He's got on Rob to burn bridges for us.
Once they reach the point of not caring,
it's just the worst. The worst.
Oh wait, we're not on locals yet, are we?
Hey, you just pulled an Anthony. You spoke without thinking first.
Yeah. No, he knows he's very calculated, Rob. He doesn't do anything without thinking, believe me. The original name of the channel was going to be Vitus Ordo Seclorum, the Old World Order. And I'm like,
the email it's set up under.
I set the email up for it and everything, and I was like, that sucks. That just sucks. Like, first off, nobody's gonna search that out. It's not catchy.
You can't piss off Protestants with that by saying
I do like Avoiding Babylon. That is a cool name.
Avoiding Babylon came to me. I mean, I kind of explained it, but it was from listening to like a talk about the Danielic mystery from Scott Hahn, and it was just talking about like mystery Babylon coming and how like Babylon will return at the apocalypse. And I was just like, yeah, we got to avoid Babylon, man. Like whatever we got to do, we got to avoid Babylon. And I just kind of stuck and I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it is
all right. So we're going to go over to locals. I think that's Thuk. With Thuk. I think it's Thuk, right? Like I always pronounce it wrong. They don't like it. So, yeah, it's probably Tommy. You don't have to ban him yet. He hasn't crossed any boundaries, but
oops, banned.
He said Carbongos. That's what gave it away. All right, we're gonna go over to locals. Join us over there, guys. We'll talk.
What video do I want to play? Hold on. Why is it not working? What is going on? No video. We're just killing the streams.
Yeah, we're just gonna kill the streams. It's gonna be
just killing the streams. Yes, it's not working. Why is scrolling suddenly not working?
Oh boy, you need me to kill him?